All right, so we're going to start today with a new drawing. This is going to be a fun little thing that we do. So I'm just going to label this and name this one practice. Again, use your first initial with your last name there. And we want to make sure that this is an imperial drawing template. So we'll go ahead and create this drawing. All right, we get that. That's not a big deal. Just go ahead and hit retry. So let's close it out. Sometimes we have this when we're trying to get on, so just go back and don't let it bother you. So we'll just go ahead and try it again, see if we can get in a second time. Sometimes the internet's pretty busy and lots of people are online using the web version of AutoCAD and you can't get in there, so just kind of try it a second time and see, and this time we did get in. So all right, now remember the very first thing we're going to do is go up to the gear up here for settings. We'll go ahead for right now. I'm going to uncheck everything. You guys have seen how these work by this point. The main thing as we go, so recall the preferences. We got our tracking, polar tracking at 30 degrees. It's turned on, so I'll go ahead and turn it off at the moment. Object snaps are all turned off. Units here, this is the main thing that we want to set. So we're going to change that to decimal, and we're going to be at a 3-place decimal. Of course, nothing changes with our navigation, and we're done. All right, now we're just going to have fun doing a few things here as we make some lines and draw some basic shapes. So I'm going to start out by drawing a rectangle. And I want my insertion point on this to be at the coordinate, the X and Y coordinate of 3, 2. Now notice there where it says rectangle, specify first corner of the rectangle. If I just went ahead right now and clicked on this, so you can see out in space down on the lower right hand part of the grid, you see some numbers moving. So you're physically seeing the X and Y coordinate that I would be placing this at if I just left clicked right now. So I'm going to kind of go in and get closer and closer to my X0, Y0 just to kind of be a little bit in there. You can see from the way our perspective is right now, just by looking at those coordinates on the screen, we are zoomed way out on our drawing area right here. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this, and then we'll talk about the sizes and stuff, because I want you to remember when you open this up, it's kind of a wide screen here. So I'm going to go 3, 2 and hit the enter key. So that basically puts that corner on my part. Now I can go up and to the left with my cursor, or I can go over to the left and down and to the left or down and to the right, and that's going to make my insertion point at a different location. Now I want my insertion point to be the lower left hand corner of the screen, so in order to do that I need to go up and to the right with my mouse. And notice if I just kind of tabbed right over and clicked enter at this point, I'm going to be creating a rectangle that measures 854.638 inches by 579.656 inches. Not what we want to do. So I'm going to physically make this on my base here of the rectangle. I want this to be 2 inches. So I'm going to type just press the number 2 key, and then I'm going to have a height of 3. Now when I do this, this is going to look like it's real narrow. So tab over, see how it looks like it's real narrow now. Now I'm going to type in 3, and now it's going to get real small, and I just hit the enter key because I've made both of those. Uh-oh, my rectangle disappeared. I didn't draw anything. So the first thing a lot of students when they're learning, they go back in and they redo it, and they kind of sketch and draw another rectangle off of it. You did draw it, but remember we are zoomed far out, so you can't see it. So right now I'm going to type in zoom, hit the enter key, and then I want to zoom all, so I'll hit the A key and hit enter to zoom on. There I go. Now I kind of zoomed right on in there. And again, just as a reminder here now, with our mouse, if we're using our tracker, I can press down on my roller track and I can kind of pan around, or I can just roll and zoom in and zoom out depending on how I want to use that. So I'm good right there with my rectangle. Now I want to use my circle tool here, and I'm going to click on circle, but again, we don't have anything or any object snaps turned on. So my object snap is turned on as far as to be able to use it. So remember, if I left click on it to unhighlight it, it turns it off. If I go back and left click on it where it's highlighted, then I turn it on again. So I'm going to come up here again. We'll go ahead and we'll select endpoint, and I'll select midpoint. Now, if I wanted to go back and do a bunch of those, the easiest way would be to go right back in the settings. So now I've got my object snaps turned on. So I'm going to come right over here. Notice the circle. We're creating a circle. So let me escape for just a second. Let's go back for a minute. Let's come up and see what that first command is when I create a circle. And remember, anytime you're in a command or you're not sure, just hit the escape button twice to make sure that you're out of it. So I'm going to click the circle. Notice it says specify center point for circle or 3P, 2P, or tan radius. So these are some different types of circle drawing tools that we have. Circle for 3P is 3 points, or circle for 2 is 2 points. In this case, we're going to specify the center point because we know exactly where that center point is, and that is at the midpoint up here. This is where I want to draw it. So I'm going to left click here, and then I'm just going to move my cursor over till I get in to this endpoint. Now notice that's going to give me a 1-inch radius or a 2-inch diameter for the circle, and I'll left click to place that. All right, now I'm out of my circle command. If I wanted to repeat the circle command, I could right click and then go repeat the last command and do it over again, but I don't, so I'm done with that. But I got some lines now that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to go into my modify panel here, and I'm going to trim some of these lines out. So I'm going to use that scissor tool. That's our trim tool. So I click on that, and then all I have to do is highlight over what I want to get rid of. So I'm going to left click on that to get rid of that lower arc, and I'm going to left click on that line. So this is the shape that I want on this. And again, hit the escape twice button to get out of that command. So, all right. Now, at this point, I kind of want to create another rectangle. So let me go back to my draw tool, and we'll use the rectangle tool again. And at this point, I don't really care. I'm going to let you guys freestyle this a little bit. Just make sure that you want to be somewhere in this area of our design so far. So I'm going to click left click here to place the rectangle, and then I'm going to go up, and I want this rectangle to be 0.75 wide, 3/4 of an inch wide, and I'll tab over, and 1/2 inch tall. So I'll tab over and enter 0.75 for the width and 0.5 for the height, and then I hit enter. So now I've got a rectangle in there. Now I'm also going to come over. I want another rectangle to be over here, but notice I'm out of that command at the moment. So again, I can either come over here and I can use my cursor to select that, or to be a little bit more efficient and not have to move my mouse, I can just right click, repeat last command. And now in this case, I want to kind of come over here. Now notice this point is kind of giving us only 2 places that I want. So make sure you don't want to have it snapped into the endpoint or your midpoint. So kind of make sure, see how the X tracks up here? I'm going to kind of put it halfway between the endpoint and the midpoint. And I'm going to click there to attach it to that side. Now on this one, I want this one to be 1/2 inch wide. Notice again, I can either do the decimal of 0.5, Or let's try it with the fraction right now, since I said fraction. So we'll put key in 1 divided by 2. That's the half-inch fraction. And AutoCAD can make these conversions as well. So if you know the fraction, just type in the fraction. I'm going to tab over now to the height of this, and I want that to be 1 inch, and hit enter. So now I've got that shape in there as well. Now I'm going to zoom in here for just a second. So, because I don't like these square corners on this, I want to create and put a radius up here on these corners. So going back now to my modify tool, and notice I have the fillet tool right here, and that's the one that I'm going to use. So I'm going to left click on the fillet tool, and notice the first thing it says is fillet, select first object or radius. So it's wanting me to select a entity to connect for the first object. In this case, it would be the line. So I can select here first, and then notice how it highlights it, and then here second, and it won't do anything. The reason being is right now we didn't tell it what the radius was, so it was showing a 0-degree radius. So let's go back to our fillet tool here again, and now notice I have that select first object or radius. So again, I'll type in R and hit enter. Now it says specify the fillet radius. Well, I'm going to use 1/8 of an inch on this. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll type 1 divided by 8 for that fraction. And I hit enter. So it is now specified. It's now got a radius on it. So I can come right here. And again, we'll select this line. And I'm going to go up here. Notice how it starts to key in and automatically knows. So we'll select that line. And I created the radius. Now I could go back and do the same thing over here, but this is where I'm going to put a radius on all 4 corners of this rectangle. So this is where it really comes in useful, just to right click, repeat the last command, and now I can just kind of pick this line and that line. Repeat my last command by right clicking, select this line and this line. Okay, so again, now I got one more to go here, so I'll right click, repeat last command, select this line and that line, and I have all of those corners of that rectangle taken care of. I'm going to put another rectangle or radius over here on these 2 corners. So I can do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the last command. Notice my radius is still at 1/8, but I want to change the radius on this one. So I'm going to go R again and say, notice we see right now how it's showing you the current radius setting is 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch. In this case, I'm going to change this to 1/4. So I'm going to go 1 divided by quarter, or you could enter it in the decimal 0.25, either way, hit enter. And that just changed it now to a 1/4 inch, and I'm going to go and select this horizontal line here and this vertical line right there. I want it in the bottom part too, so I'll repeat this last command and we'll do the same thing here on this. Select the vertical line and we're coming to right here. All right, there we go. So let's escape out and let's zoom out a little bit so we can see what we've got. So we're kind of almost getting there. So we just need, hopefully, maybe some of you might even might be starting to recognize what we're drawing here just for practice drawing. So I'm going to create, and I'm just going to now use my line tool. So let's go back to the draw, and in this case, I'm going to use my line tool. Now, I'm going to place this line here somewhere, but notice it's probably going to want to snap to one of those things. So if I don't want that, just go ahead and let's click the object snap and turn that off. So now I can kind of place a line where I want it. And I'm going to, again, kind of visualize. I want to divide this line in 3, which if you recall, this is a 2-inch wide line, so it won't be super easy, but I want this side to be somewhere around 3/4 of an inch here. So I'm just going to kind of put my cursor below that horizontal line at the bottom. I'm going to just rough eyeball it for right now. We're just kind of freestyle drawing. So I'm going to left click on there, and notice at this point we'll take our line up. Now let's go, we're going to make this line 1 inch, and I want it to be at 90 degrees. So I hit 1 and enter, and then I tab over to make sure that my degree setting is 90 degrees, and I'll hit enter. That places that line. Now notice I'm still in the line command, and because my object snap is turned off, my object tracking is not really turned on either. So I got it. So let me just real quick hit. No, you know what? I'm going to kind of, so you recall this, I'm going to turn the polar on at the moment. Now notice how it kind of, this is just kind of making things simpler here. So now I can be at 0 degrees. See how kind of using that polar tracking button, we can make our drawing a little simpler. And it's set to 30 degrees, so it locks in at all of those at every 30-degree increment. So it could just make it a little easier for us as we draw to kind of get these locked into place. So, well, I still, at this point, want this to be at 0 degrees. And I'm going to say I want this to be 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go 0.75. That's the decimal equivalent of 3/4. And since it's using my polar tracking now, I'm automatically locked in at 0 degrees. All I have to do is hit enter. And I'm still in the line command. So now I'm going to go in. And at this point, it doesn't matter how long you draw the line. Just make sure that you're below that lower horizontal line and that you're locked in at 90 degrees. And I will left click again to create that line. And then I'm going to right click confirm to exit out and get rid of the line command. Now, at this point, I need to go back in and modify some of these lines. I want to trim some of these out. So we'll go back and use our trim tool. And I want to trim out this line. I want to trim out this line to get rid of that. And I also want to trim out this line. Now at this point, I hope that you recognize this as the Among Us character. So I've kind of been drawing. It's a good time to go ahead and hit, we'll go ahead and hit save just to make sure that it is saved. And again, that's saved as practice. But I don't want to leave this as practice. I'm going to go ahead and save this now file as Among Us. So to change this, even though I've saved it as a practice-f last, I can change the name and create a new drawing right off of this while I'm going. So I'm just going to go up here to the arrow, drop down arrow, and I'm going to click Save As. Notice how this opens up a whole different screen and pop-up window. And here's where I place my name. So name this file. So I'm going to highlight here, kind of just left click on there, and I'll start top up. So this is going to be Among Us hyphen, again, your first and last name. So for me, it's going to be B. Curry for my first and last name, and I'll just click save. Now be careful, don't click in new folder or samples. You want this right on the top, so you want to make sure you know where you're saving it. So I'm going to save that there as Among Us, and we've got it saved. So let me go ahead and go back here to the AutoCAD main screen on the web, and of course as we go down you'll see here is my Among Us -B Curry drawing. So all right, so I'm going to go ahead, I want to open that back up, so I'm going to click the check here and click open, or I could have just double left clicked on Among Us to open it up as well, and I get everything going in here. So that's the start of this drawing. You've saved it. In the next video, I'm going to show you a couple of other things that we can do with this using some of the other tools.